The courtroom went silent the moment my sister stood up and said my name. Her voice didn't shake. Mine did. I didn't. Know that everything I believed about my family was about to collapse in public. A man in a black suite walked in late, sat down behind me and didn't say a word. What I couldn't see was that he wasn't there for her, or the judge. He was there because someone expected this day years ago. As my sister's lawyer demanded what she called her rightful share, papers slid across the bench, and the judge's expression changed. If only I had understood why my grandfather warned me to never rush signatures. Because in that moment, I realized this wasn't a fight about money. It was about a trap, and who had already stepped into it. The air grew heavy as I entered the courtroom, as if justice itself was taking a breath before arriving. My lawyer, Elliot, was beside me, silent and prepared. My sister, Victoria, had already taken her seat, in a black suit. Bespoke details, everything perfect. It was all a lie. My father, Grant, and my mother, Linda, are sitting behind me, as if in a support role. But I can see something different from them. They want to control this courtroom. I just didn't want the truth. The judge's table, Elliot touched me lightly. "Are you ready?" he whispered. I nodded, but I wasn't really ready. Nobody could be ready when their own family is in court against them. The court clerk read the case. His tone was monotonous, as if he were reading a grocery list. Victoria rose to her feet, even before the last word had been spoken. Those movements, purposeful, cold, confident. She wasn't doing it to honor my grandfather. She was doing it to claim him. Her style of dress was striking. A cream-colored tailored suit over a black coat, the kind of quiet luxury that makes people agree with you without waiting for you to speak. Her hair was flawless, her makeup minimal but effective, and when she looked at me there was no sadness in her eyes. It was a game. It was a calculation. An expensive watch, a finely woven tie, a soft voice. As his lawyer approached the table, he slid the papers across with the precision of a knife. "Your Honor," he said, his rhythm perfect, "we are proceeding with the immediate transfer of the property to my client." My parents nodded behind me, as if they'd rehearsed the gesture at home. My mother's hands were clasped as if in prayer at a church. My father's jaw was tight, his eyes fixed. It was as if this were a business meeting, and I was the one causing the disruption. The judge looked at me, not at Victoria but at me. "Ms. Archer," he said. We were starting to use names now. "Do you have any objections?" Victoria's lips twitched, as if she could not wait to hear me speak. I wasn't going to sit still. "Yes," I said. "I object." The lawyer gave a slight condescending smile. "On what grounds?" he asked as if my answer was already known. "I haven't given him a chance to argue," I said. "Not yet." The judge blinked. "I want to wait until the last person arrives," I said. The corridor fell silent. Victoria laughed. "This is ridiculous," she said. "There's no one else here." My father warned me with a sidelong glance. He mumbled, loud enough for my voice to be clear. "You always do this. You're bringing shame to the family." The judge leaned back. "Ms. Archer, this isn't a theater. This is inheritance court. If you have a legal objection, state it." "It's legal," I said calmly. "But it's up to that person to explain it, not me." Victoria's lawyer approached. "Your Honor," he said softly, "Ms. Archer is not cooperating. We request an urgent decision. There are assets that need to be protected." This word, responsible, was always used like a weapon in my family. It meant control, don't question. My mother sighed softly. "She's grieving," she told the judge. "She doesn't understand how these things work." That's a lie. He knew it very well. Victoria's eyes were cold and gleaming, fixed directly on me. "I'm just trying to prevent everything from falling apart," she said. "My grandfather will want this handled properly." I looked at him and saw the lawyer he'd found so quickly, the petition he'd drawn up just as hastily, and the parents rehearsing behind him. The judge turned a page in the file. "This petition requests full authority over the inheritance," he said. "It designates the defendant as an ineligible party to participate." Victoria's lawyer nodded. "Do you want me to give it to you today?" said the judge. "Yes, Your Honor," replied the lawyer. The judge looked at me again. "Ms. Archer, what is your objection?" "I object because they're asking you to proceed without all the records," I said calmly. Victoria chuckled sharply. "No secret recordings. He's dead, that's all." The judge's patience had run out. "Ms. Archer, you shall not speak in an unusual manner." My father's lips tightened even more. My mother's eyes narrowed as if she hated being corrected. Victoria's lawyer smiled. Your Honor, if Mrs. Archer wishes to delay, we object. The inheritance cannot wait. I didn't look at him. I looked at the judge. It will take minutes, I said. The judge kept looking at the courtroom doors. Who are we waiting for? He asked. Is simple but important. The person who actually controls the inheritance. Victoria's face tensed for the first time. It's me, she said automatically, then restrained herself because the judge was looking at her. The judge leaned towards me. If this is a tactic... No, I said. I request that you receive the file before signing anything. Silence. Then the courtroom doors opened. A slow, deliberate, controlled movement. A man in a simple black suit entered. No fancy tie, no jewelry, just an envelope and a calm expression. He walked as if he didn't care whose money it was. She went straight to the clerk's desk. She held up the envelope, spoke clearly, and said my name. Ms. Archer. The judge blinked. The man placed the envelope in the clerk's hand. This is from the trustee for the court, he said. The judge took the envelope and read the sender's name. His mouth moved. This can't be, he whispered. He took the envelope between two fingers, turned it over and looked at it, as if the ink might change color. Then he opened it with a controlled tear. There was no drama involved, just a simple, straightforward action, like reading the newspaper. The courtroom was so quiet I could hear Victoria's lawyer shifting her weight. The judge produced the first folded document. In the corner was an embossed seal made of thick cardboard, a formal signature block indicating that my family had taken this meeting lightly. His jaw tightened. He read the sender's name aloud. National Bank Trust Fund Department. A fleeting expression crossed Victoria's face, but she quickly composed herself. This is a notice regarding the administration of the foundation, the judge said. The testator's assets have been transferred to a recoverable foundation and have become irretrievable upon death. Victoria's lawyer quickly rose to his feet. Your Honor, we are in the midst of an inheritance case. The judge did not raise his head. Sit down, he said. This foundation deed is a document of trust that defines the trustees, he continued. My parents tensed up. Banks don't have a family control mentality. Banks care about documents, risk, and conditions. Victoria's lawyer, confidently trying to salvage the situation, argued, Your Honor, even if there is a will, the probate court still has jurisdiction over the estate. The judge finally raised his head. Mr. Attorney, in your petition you requested that the entire inheritance be given to me immediately. This foundation deed clearly states that the inheritance is small and that most of the assets are held by the foundation. The man turned to the officer. Mark this as received, he said. Then he looked at Victoria, not like a family member, but like the plaintiff. Mrs. Harrison, he said, did you know that your grandfather established a foundation with a corporate board of trustees? Victoria's jaw rose. I'm impressed, she said. He didn't understand what he was signing. The judge did not object to his sentiments. He then raised the next page. This notice contains a copy of the foundation's enforcement record and a witness list. It also includes a lawyer's certification, confirming that the person who signed the document did so, with full legal capacity. My father's mouth tightened. My mother's eyes narrowed, as if searching for a new perspective. The judge uttered the sentence that made him whisper. This couldn't have happened in the first place. He read it slowly so that no one could later claim he had misunderstood. The no objection clause has been activated. Any rights holder who applies for the seizure of foundation assets in violation of the contract terms loses their right to the distribution of these assets. Victoria's lawyer's face turned deathly pale. Victoria's eyes widened, then narrowed. For the first time, my mother's hands stopped clasping. The judge raised his head. Counsel, he said to Victoria's lawyer, you have submitted a petition for the immediate transfer of the entire inheritance to your client. Yes, Your Honor, the lawyer said carefully. The judge replied that this provision is applicable. Filing your petition may have already resulted in a loss of inheritance. The lawyer swallowed. Your Honor, we object to its validity. You may object, said the judge, but you cannot pretend it doesn't exist. Then he looked at me. Ms. Archer, you asked to wait for the last person to arrive. Was this that person? Yes, I said. My voice remained calm, even though my pulse was pounding in my throat. The person the Board of Trustees controls the distribution of. The man in the black suit spoke for the first time. Your Honor, he said. I'm calm and decisive. I am not here to argue. I am here to make a statement and confirm the position of the Board of Trustees. The judge gestured. Speak. The man didn't look at my parents. He didn't look at Victoria. He looked at the judge. The trustee does not accept the plaintiff's claim, he said. The trustee will not distribute assets to anyone based on today's petition. The trustee will manage, according to the foundation's terms and conditions, and request the court to reject the attempt to seize assets under the foundation's control through a will. Victoria became angry. You can't just talk like that, she snapped. The judge raised his hand. Ms. Harrison, you shall not make any unusual statements. Silence. But Victoria's breathing changed, faster, thinner. His lawyer rose to his feet. Your Honor, we request that you at least require the submission of the full foundation document. We are investigating whether my client was unfairly dismissed, or whether there was any undue influence from the defendant. The judge's gaze didn't soften. Unlawful influence is a serious offense. This is an allegation, and you just watched audio recordings of an attempted coercion that didn't come from the defendant but was aimed at the perpetrator. My father's jaw twitched. The judge turned to the man in black. Did the guardian hand over the foundation deed to the lawyer? Yes, the man replied. A complete copy of the document was delivered to both parties by registered mail yesterday. My mother's head swung towards Victoria's lawyer. So they knew. So they had filed a complaint, even though they knew. The judge pondered this fact for a moment. Then she looked at Victoria with almost disgust. Ms. Harrison, did you receive the foundation documents yesterday? Victoria's lips parted. She began. His lawyer quickly interrupted. Your Honor, we received a file, but... The judge interrupted him. Attorney, if you received a file containing a clause prohibiting objection and yet submitted a petition demanding the immediate distribution of the entire inheritance, I want you to understand what that means in this court. The lawyer remained motionless. The judge turned to the clerk. The official, stating that he wishes a hearing to be held and the issue of sanctions to be addressed, requested that the Board of Trustees' letter be recorded. Then he looked directly into Victoria's eyes. And Mrs. Harrison, he added, his voice now colder, if you are a named beneficiary and you triggered the forfeiture today, it may have cost you more than you expected. Victoria's face contorted into an ugly expression. Her eyes fixed on me, and that hatred wasn't about money. The point was, the institution she thought would crown her had marked her as a risky candidate. Then he did what he always did. He tried to win with a new story. Your Honor, he said suddenly, his voice loud and with his usual haste. I need to put this on the official record. The judge narrowed his eyes. What? Absolutely, Victoria said, looking me in the eye. The only word my parents guarded like a bullet was elder abuse. The court fell silent. The judge's expression changed. Not because he believed her, but because the court now had to decide whether this constituted evidence. Elder abuse, Victoria repeated, her voice slightly louder, seemingly trying to turn the accusation into evidence. My mother's face instantly contorted with performance-induced sadness. My father leaned back in his chair, narrowing his eyes, as if this was all part of the plan. His lawyer looked as if he'd been handed an emergency exit. Your Honor, he said, we demand an immediate investigation. The defendant isolated the property owner, controlled their access, and forced them to sign documents that were in their own interest. The judge didn't react like a daytime television viewer. He reacted like a judge. My dear lawyer, these are serious allegations. What evidence do you have today? He said. Victoria didn't even blink. The witnesses, she said, pointing behind her. Two relatives, as if forced to stand there, were awkwardly positioned near the back rows. My aunt and a cousin I never spoke to. Their faces were tense, their eyes avoiding mine. My mother nodded encouragingly, as if silently guiding them. The judge looked at them indifferently. Witnesses can testify, he said, but I want something concrete. Medical reports, previous complaints, police reports, public safety investigation, anything. Victoria's jaw tightened. He didn't want to embarrass the family, she said quickly. She was frightened. The judge's expression remained unchanged. Then let him explain why he called emergency services himself. Silence. Victoria tried to change the subject. She was confused. When the process began, everyone expected a different outcome. These expectations weren't explicitly stated, but they influenced the decisions. Some steps were taken based on these expectations, while others proceeded purely intuitively. These two approaches intersected at a certain point. This clash created discord, which slowed progress. This slowdown created pressure, which increased impatience. Impatience led to mistakes, and these mistakes had irreversible consequences. The balance of the process was disrupted. Old assumptions lost their validity, and the direction naturally changed. The judge looked at the bank's envelope. This foundation deed was drawn up with a power of attorney and witnesses. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is a formalized intention. My father's lawyer stood up, his voice soft. Your Honor, we also have evidence that the defendant had access to the accounts and monitored the communications. Elliot immediately stood up. I object. This is a baseless argument. The judge raised his hand. Lawyer, are your proofs here? Victoria's lawyer hesitated. Then, he did what lawyers do when they have a narrative but no recording. We will request the collection of evidence, he said. The judge's eyes hardened. A discovery is not a fishing license. Accusing someone of elder abuse in open court cannot be used as a strategy to seize assets held in trust. Victoria's face flushed. This isn't a strategy, she retorted. The judge leaned back. Then present the evidence. I don't have any relatives connected to the theater, said Victoria. My mother's voice trembled. Practice has been done. Your Honor kept us away from him. It made him hate us. The judge glanced at her once. Madam, this is not family therapy. Then she looked at the person in the room with whom she had no emotional connection. Only financial responsibility. The man in black. Sir, he said, does the Board of Trustees have any documentation regarding concerns about excessive influence or abuse? The man didn't hesitate. No, Your Honor. The executor conducted a standard preliminary meeting. The testator had a private meeting with his lawyer. He confirmed his intentions. Supporting materials? Asked the judge. Yes, a record and a statement. The testator requested that these be preserved. Victoria's head suddenly shot up. Which explanation? The judge didn't look at him. Give it to me, he said to the man. The man reached for a second, thinner, unmarked envelope and handed it to the clerk. The clerk gave the document to the judge. The judge opened the box and took out a single-page letter. He read silently for a few seconds, his eyes moving cautiously. Then he looked at me, but there was no warmth in his gaze. There was the weight of something he understood. Ms. Archer, he said, did you know that your grandfather had prepared a written statement anticipating today's allegations? Yes, I whispered. He told me he wrote to me, but I didn't know what it was. Victoria's breathing changed. Her nails dug into the table. The judge read the first line of the letter aloud. If you are reading this in court, it means that my son and his family are trying to seize my inheritance by falsely accusing my grandson. My mother let out a sound like she'd been stabbed. My father's face froze. Victoria's lawyer sat down slowly, as if he had realized he was standing on a trapdoor. The judge continued reading, not the whole thing, only enough to make the records irrefutable. After his fall, he wanted me to live with him. He met with his lawyer alone. He established this foundation because he was afraid of pressure tactics and demands for quick signatures. The judge's lips tightened as he reached the sentence. He read it silently at first, then aloud. The night I called emergency services, my son brought a mobile notary to my house to get new signatures. I refused. I asked for witnesses. If they call this elder abuse, then they are reflecting their own behavior. The courtroom fell silent. Not a whisper, not a cough. Victoria sat very still. She insisted that her eyes find a way to break the record. My father's lawyer slowly rose to his feet, his voice cautious. Now, Your Honor, we object to the rumors. The judge interrupted. This is a statement of intent, made by the procedure, and is intended to show his state of mind. And this is consistent with the radio recordings. The court will not consider last-minute elder abuse allegations used to seize assets, held by a company trustee, it said. If you want to submit a petition with evidence, you can do so, but not today. That's not the case, Victoria's lawyer swallowed. Your Honor, we wish to withdraw the motion. The judge replied, But you can stop digging. The man turned to the officer. The judge said he was rejecting the petition and would hold a reasoning hearing regarding the filing and the sanctions to be applied due to the false allegations made today. My mother's face turned deathly pale. My father's jaw tightened. Victoria's mask finally cracked. So he's the one buying everything? She retorted. The judge did not hesitate. The foundation is being managed in accordance with the terms. Ms. Harrison's petition for the immediate confiscation of the entire inheritance has been rejected. Victoria's hands were trembling. She tried to conceal it by gripping the edge of the table tightly, as the man in black calmly indicated the next step with the precision of a machine. The guardian will suspend all payments to the parties who triggered the no dispute clause until further review. We will act in accordance with the principles of trust. Victoria's head suddenly turned towards him. Suspend it? She hissed. No, not like that. The judge leaned forward. Ms. Harrison, you entered this courtroom acting as if it were already yours. You will leave here today without a verdict in your favor, and you will have to account for the manner in which you obtained it. Victoria's eyes turned to me, filled with hatred and contempt. Then she whispered, almost inaudibly, "This isn't over," and spoke to the judge in a quiet, unprofessional voice. The judge's expression changed slightly as he listened. He nodded once. Then he looked directly at my father. "Mr. Harrison," he said, "please remain seated." My father froze. "Why?" he asked. "Because," said the judge, "I just learned that an official came down the corridor with documents for you, and he's not from this court." My father's face tensed. The courtroom doors opened again. A uniformed officer entered, carrying a document with bold lettering at the top. I couldn't read it in the hallway, but the officer quietly said, "The notification has been served." My father didn't stand up. He didn't demand respect. I just noticed that the badge suddenly seemed to weigh more than his money. "What is this?" my father asked, his voice tense. I hope the police officer wasn't playing a trick. He handed over the package. "Notification? You can accept it here or in the hallway." My father's lawyer leaned towards him and whispered something urgent. My father ignored it and snatched the papers, turning the first page with trembling fingers. His eyes scanned the hood. Then he froze. Because this wasn't an inheritance case. This was a criminal case. The judge watched expressionlessly as it was read. "Mr. Harrison," he said, "this court has nothing to do with these documents. But I would like to remind you that you are still under oath due to your previous statement." My father swallowed hard. "Your Honor, this is harassment. My family is being targeted because of my daughter." "Stop," said the judge. "Your daughter is not the person who called emergency services to report an attempted extortion. Your daughter is not the person who filed a fraudulent petition in this court. Your daughter is not the person who attempted to seize trust assets held by a corporate trustee." My mother's mouth tightened. "We were trying to protect the family," she whispered. The judge did not soften his stance. "So you turned this into a referral process." The assistant changed his posture slightly, and I realized he hadn't come alone. 2 other uniformed men were standing quietly by the doors. Victoria's lawyer cleared his throat. "Your Honor, we request a short break to speak with our clients." The judge looked at him, as if tired of the idea of further discussion. "You may meet, but this petition is denied. The Board of Trustees will manage the trust, and I will recall the court for a reasoned hearing." He picked up his pen. Then, as if remembering something important, he looked behind him. "One more thing," he said. The room fell silent again. He called out to the man in black. "Sir, does the trustee request any protection order?" "Yes, Your Honor," the man replied immediately. "Given the attempted interference, the trustee is requesting an order prohibiting the plaintiffs from contacting financial institutions, custodians, or third parties to access the trust, assets, and harassing the original beneficiary." Victoria's head suddenly shot up. "Harassment?" She laughed mockingly. The judge's eyes turned to her. "Ms. Harrison, you have accused someone of elder abuse in open court without any evidence. You are not in a position to be complicit." He looked at the Board of Trustees representative. "Understood. Prepare the draft. I will sign it today." My mother's face turned deathly pale. "You can't deprive us of our own daughter," she whispered, her voice trembling. The judge's voice remained flat. "You can protect yourself from bad behavior." Elliot leaned towards me and murmured, "This is the cleanest decision we could hope for." I nodded once, but my eyes remained on my parents because my father had the criminal records in his hand, and I could see the calculations had changed. Not regret, but damage control. The judge adjourned the hearing. "The hearing is over." The moment the gavel struck, my mother lunged toward me in the hallway. Not physically, but she was so close that the air changed. "You did this!" she hissed. "You ruined your father." I didn't blink. "He's ruined himself," I said quietly. Elliot interrupted, his voice low and whispered. "You'll lose everything," Victoria said. "I'll make sure of it." I looked at him and didn't look away. My voice was calm. "You already tried," I said. "And the board of trustees didn't even need to raise their voices." Victoria's face contorted. "Do you think you're safe just because a bank sued you?" I got close enough so he could hear me over the corridor noise. "I think I'm safe because my grandfather planned it. And because you can't get a recording by force." Her lips parted. I saw the moment she wanted to scream. Instead, she did something colder. She turned her phone face down, as if she'd sent something she didn't want anyone to see. Elliot noticed it too. His gaze shifted to his hands, then to me. "Don't argue," she murmured. "We're going." We exited through the side exit. Elliot stopped on the sidewalk and looked into my eyes. "Here's the tangible result you wanted," she said quietly. "The foundation controls everything. The petition was rejected. The no appeal clause comes into effect. Your parents have no access. And the court has issued a ruling preventing interference." I nodded. "What about Victoria?" I asked. Elliot tightened his grip. "If the person in question is a rights holder, they've probably lost their rights today." We stood there breathless for a moment. Then Elliot's phone vibrated. "What?" I asked. Elliot lifted the screen. "Official notification. National Bank Trust Department. Security alert. Access attempt denied." My stomach froze when the hearing ended. The verdict had been signed, and someone was still trying to get their hands on the money. Elliot's voice trailed off. "They're doing it right now," he said. Initially, everyone chose to observe the situation. This waiting was a conscious choice, but it lasted longer than expected. As time passed, opportunities began to slip away. By the time this was realized, intervention was too late. The delay reduced options. Reduced options increased pressure. Pressure led to quick decisions. Quick decisions were not sufficiently considered. This created new problems. Problems progressed in a chain reaction. Each new problem amplified the previous one. Control of the process weakened. Balance was completely lost. And the consequences were harsher than expected. Elliot picked up the phone. He glanced at me. Not a warning, but an understanding one. His quick-thinking mind was already one step ahead. We needed to go to his office. That was clear even without speaking. Waiting on the sidewalk would be a dangerous choice, especially with Victoria holding her phone, and it was unclear what she was doing. In the taxi, Elliot immediately started working. He opened his laptop, took notes, and scribbled like a ghost. I, on the other hand, had no choice but to look out the window. The city seemed normal. Cars, people, coffee shop patrons. No one was questioning a teacher. No one was witnessing a family falling apart. Just everyday life. "Security. We need your team," Elliot said. "Right now, immediately." When we arrived at the office, Elliot's assistant was already waiting for us, looking confused. "They called 6 minutes ago," she said. "They said the access attempt was blocked, but someone tried to change the portal." Elliot sat down at his desk and called the security department. When the phone was answered, the tone was professional and cold. And a woman's voice. "This line is being recorded. How can I help you?" "Elliot Lane," said Elliot. "I'm a member of the Trust Council. I just received a security alert. The access attempt was denied. I need details." There was a brief pause in the sound of the keyboard. Then the woman's voice became slightly harsher. "Don't panic. Process. An attempt was made to log into the beneficiary portal. Multi-factor authentication failed. Immediately afterward, an attempt was made to change the contact phone number found in the file. My mouth is dry. Whose number will it be changed to?" I asked. The security guard didn't answer me directly. He asked Elliot, "Do you allow me to disclose the change request data to your client?" "Yes," Elliot said instantly. The request to change the phone number was sent from a device associated with the plaintiff, Victoria Harrison. I closed my eyes. In the courtroom, she turned her phone face down, pretending to be embarrassed. But in reality, she was concealing an act. Perfect planning, perfect timing, or perhaps the result of panic. I didn't know. Elliot's voice remained calm. "Has your identity been verified?" "No, the system blocked the request. A manual flagging was made. The distribution status is now set to fraud risk awaiting review." Elliot sighed slowly. Good, freeze all changes. No changes to portal contact information. No changes to phone numbers. No changes to email addresses. Changes such as address updates cannot be made without in-person identity verification. It's already been done, he replied, and a report has been compiled. Send this report to my office, Elliot said. And remember, there's an active court order today prohibiting interference. I understand. The court order is in our file. The Board of Trustees will comply. The phone call is over. The silence is sharp, especially when the first wave of adrenaline begins to pull you in. This warning, said Elliot, is precisely why corporate boards of trustees exist. They aren't pressured. They don't feel guilty. They keep records and they block. I nodded. So he tried to get in and couldn't. Yes. And it created a record to follow him all the way to the sanctions. Elliot's office. Not to create drama, but for one reason. To secure everything. Elliot had me sign a one-page instruction. All trust fund communications were routed through a lawyer. Direct communication from family members was not allowed. Any attempt to change things was considered fraud. Then, the bank's security report was handed to the judge's clerk along with a note. Access attempts were blocked a few minutes after the court recess began. No threat, no conversation, just a timestamp. An hour later, Elliot's assistant came in. The trust fund representative called back. The man in the black suit, his representative, joined the video call. The same calm face, the same simple suit. It was almost like a uniform. Ms. Archer, he said, I want to make something very clear. I gave her permission. The foundation will only distribute according to the foundation's terms. There will be no exceptions due to family pressure. No temporary transfers will be made. There will be no advancements. He glanced at a note, then looked up. Due to today's petition and portal intervention attempt, the Board of Trustees has decided to remove Victoria Harrison from her position. The court has officially ruled that it has triggered the no objection clause. The distribution rights have been revoked until the court's approval is awaited. My chest tightened. Elliot, with a mixture of relief and disbelief, asked, What about the parents? The representative of the Board of Trustees' facial expression remained unchanged. I should mention that the distribution of Grant and Linda, Harrison's deserved payments, is being reviewed. Given their involvement in the petition and their coordinated actions, the Board of Trustees considers their participation as interference. He paused. We will submit a statement to the court. At that moment, I felt like it was all over. Not because it was emotionally satisfying, but because it had come to an end administratively. Families don't disappear. But control? Control is cut off. Assets can be frozen. Applications can be rejected. Initially, there were specific rules. These rules provided direction. However, over time, they were relaxed. This relaxation happened in small steps, so it went unnoticed. Each relaxation created a new habit. Habits became permanent. The rules lost their meaning. This created uncertainty. Uncertainty led to different interpretations. Conflicts arose between these interpretations. These conflicts exhausted the process. Fatigue reduced attention. Errors increased, and the system collapsed under its own weight. 2 weeks later, the court held the sentencing hearing. Victoria's lawyer avoided eye contact with anyone. He stood up and cleared his throat. Your Honor, we withdraw all the allegations we contested and apologize to the court. The judge did not smile. He perceived the apology as a dismissal of the application and did not accept it. He imposed sanctions for the application being made in bad faith. He ordered Victoria to pay a portion of her legal fees. And most importantly, he issued a ruling that acknowledged the trustees had invoked the no controversy clause. Then he addressed my parents directly. Your daughter didn't take anything. Your father took control of the documents from you, and you responded with manipulation. This court will not condone that, he said. For the first time, my mother cried as if it were real. Not sadness, but a loss of control. My father didn't cry. He kept looking at the ground, as if trying to find a flaw. There was none. Within a month, the bank completed the first official distribution, in accordance with the foundation's terms. The house remained protected by its title deed. The remaining assets were managed with receipts, approvals, and a document record that the family could never rewrite. But the story doesn't end there. No story ever ends because families are cyclical entities, constant rotations. Constant hunger, constant punishments. 3 weeks after the hearing, my mother started reaching out to me in another way. Not through my social media accounts, even though I'd blocked them, but through mutual friends. Whispers carrying the message, I'm worried about you. Stories telling her she needed to break free, that there were only things an old man could do after starvation. To Elliot. "Keep a record," he said. "Everything. Every message, every intermediary, every number." My father, however, came straight to the point. People don't change. And my father's fault wasn't that he didn't change, but that he believed he could refuse to change. He came to my office. Before security could remove him, he said, "I don't want this to end." Did he not want it to end? Or did he not want to take responsibility for the ending? Victoria remained silent. This kind of silence is the most dangerous. Silence means time for replanning. Elliot's assistant called out in the office. "There's a visitor?" I looked up. He'd already gone upstairs. A few minutes later, the door to my office opened and Victoria walked in. Without an appointment. Had security failed, or had money been the deciding factor, I didn't know. His face wasn't striking to look at. There was a kind of quiet anger. But beneath it, deeper, was a sense of loss. When you don't control what you want to control, you lose yourself. "Everything you said in court was a lie," Victoria said. Before I could even sit down, she added, "My grandfather never wanted to establish any foundation." "You convinced him." I looked up. "You were approaching Du even though you knew he was lying." "I don't want to talk to you," Victoria said seriously. "I want to talk to my mother. And my father. I want to sort this out." "To solve it?" I repeated. "Or to take it back?" Victoria's eyes hardened. "The legal system is flawed. If there's a lawyer, no matter how they're set up, that money can be yours. It's not fair. Is it for you? Or for justice?" I asked. Silence. Then Victoria spoke, her voice lower, even hesitant. "My grandfather wanted to see me. In his final days, I didn't know he was looking for me because my mother had blocked his phone. I wanted to visit him. But my mother," she stopped. "My mother said that if I visited, if I called, I wouldn't have to bother. She said he was already taking care of him. When I saw him, he was very frail, and there was something in his eyes." She paused. "Guilt. He saw me as guilty, as if I had come to see him, but..." She looked up. I hadn't. My mother never said she had blocked his phone. "I had no idea about this. Why are you telling me now?" I asked. "Because after the courtroom, my lawyer started explaining things to me. I listened to a recorded voice of my grandfather. He talks about me without naming me, my daughter. But he explains that he didn't visit because I was worried about my mother. As I listened to the recording, I realized that..." She lowered her voice. "That wasn't my grandfather. There was just a worried man." I turned my eyes away from her. I didn't know if this was another form of Victoria's manipulation or a real break. People don't change, but sometimes when they're in so much pain, sometimes slowly, the door opens. "I tried to talk to Hawthorne," Victoria said. "I told them I knew the abuse was a lie. But they said..." She paused. "They said this isn't about me anymore. This is about the court order. And the no contest clause has been applied. I've run away. There was a time to run away, and I didn't." I looked up. This might have been the most honest thing Victoria had ever said. "Is it too late?" Victoria asked. "For the sake of law," I said, "yes. For your own peace?" I shrugged. "I don't know. You'll have to find that out." I waited for him to get up and leave. But he didn't stay. He leaned against the wall, standing there as if he realized all his energy was draining away. "My grandfather gave you the house, didn't he?" Victoria asked. "No," I said. "My grandfather gave the house to a foundation. The foundation confirmed his intention to me. That's the important difference. So he can control you," Victoria said bitterly. "No," I said. "He can't control you. He has documents. He has a history. He has a lawyer. And I do." Victoria left. The assistant showed her the way out. After leaving the office, Elliot continued working. He answered emails. He archived documents. He reviewed the court order once more and called the notary to formalize it. "The court decision is final," Elliot said. "Now you can speak directly with the bank, despite any family interference. But the interference never completely stops. Families understand this. My father changed lawyers and tried to pursue the search through another channel. My mother started spreading stories on social media about me being an elder abuser as a child, about my grandfather not loving me, about him giving me money being a mistake. Elliot told me to show these things at the office every day. I took screenshots. I recorded the dates. It all went into a file, as documentation of what the family did to me. Following the disclosure of my grandfather's elder abuse record, invested appropriately. My grandfather's intention had been fulfilled. Protection, not control. With Elliot again after the court hearing. He was sitting in his office drinking coffee and he said, "It doesn't seem that simple, but it actually is. Families destroy themselves for money. They destroy themselves for control. And unless people see this, nothing will change. Your grandfather saw this. That's why he planned it. Why did all these things done to me?" I asked. Change nothing? My father still called me. My mother still wanted to have me. Victoria still didn't hear the pain. Because, Elliot said, control is a good thing. Once people taste it, they never let go. The legal system would have taken it. So it chose the documents and the people who would protect you in time. I visited the house. My grandfather's library is still there, the books untouched. On his desk, I found a folder, his own handwriting, dated, sealed, and lawyer certified. Inside were letters, notes, and, I think most importantly, a voice recording. Notes he'd written on his phone, in a voice I'd never heard before. If you're listening to these voices, I remember him beginning, then someone I'm not in control of, or some people are protecting you. I hope it's the latter. As I listened, each word felt like a step forward. My journey back in time, a journey to understand what the family had done. My grandfather knew. He knew everything, and he had foreseen what was happening. In other words, he had planned it. One day, I saw Victoria's statement on social media, short but important. I retract my statements in the courtroom. There was no elder abuse. The mistake is mine. I want to act responsibly. Elliot saw it. That's the sign, he said. Slow, but a sign. Some people can change, but only after they've lost. The final distribution was made 3 years later. The Hawthorne inspection was no longer in effect. The financial system was fully transparent. The house was officially transferred to me without any loans. Assets were complete and descriptive. My grandfather's intentions were fulfilled. When the final documents were signed in his office, Elliot said, "It's done." "What happened to the families?" I asked. "Them? They still can't believe it's impossible," Elliot said. "Grant is debating the court case online. Linda is playing the victim on social media. And Victoria," he paused. "Victoria is silent. That's for the best right now. But silence is not always permanent." A week later, my lawyer received a call. My father's new petition had arrived. A different angle, a different problem. The bank called me that afternoon. "Ms. Archer, this is another initiative. Same goal, different approach. Are you ready?" I said yes. Because these kinds of wars never end. They only change form. But this time I'm prepared, documented, and protected. My grandfather knew me too well to believe he didn't know me. By this point, it was clear that what had happened couldn't be explained by a single statement. What happened didn't happen overnight. It unfolded over time. Some moments were immediately noticeable, while others only made sense in retrospect. Details that initially seemed insignificant played a decisive role in the course of the process. Small choices had greater impacts than expected. Points left unaddressed left more lasting marks than spoken words. Not everything was resolved through dialogue. Some issues remained unresolved. As time went on, perspective changed. Initial reactions gave way to a calmer assessment. This assessment didn't mean approving of everything. It simply meant trying to see things as they were, neither diminishing nor exaggerating. Not every story ends with a definitive conclusion. Some stop at a certain point. This story stopped right there, without drawing a sharp line, but without losing its meaning. The impact of what happened was silent, but it was lasting.